Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ravegal. We're gonna pop over here to some more Final Fantasy VI. I do have a little bit more grinding to go, but we actually need to. I'm gonna do a little more. Well, may do a little grinding first, and then jump into what's next. So we're going to start with, let's see here. I don't think Sabin. Yeah, Sabin was learning Phoenix. I think we're gonna get Cyan. He needs a few more levels still. I guess let's go Locke. Well, no, we're gonna be using Locke a lot on our last grind. Although it's starting to seem like that might be the best option, because we don't want to use these two while we're fighting Cactuars. Yeah, we'll call that good. I think we actually just might want him set up that way. We are going to go Curse Shield. And actually, let's do Genji Glove, Sniper Eye. Wing Edge, Wing Edge. Let's see here. Oh, I just remembered what I was initially intending to do. But I think we need some better... Okay, we're gonna give him a growth egg because we want him to get a few levels there. Cyan, we're gonna go ahead and give a Hero's Ring, Hermes Sandals, Sword Bangle, Genji Glove, Genji Glove. This might be a bit rough, but I think we should still be okay. Does he have anything he was working on? No. So we'll go ahead and give him... we actually want him to get an HP boost, if possible. Megazomer. Sabin needs to finish learning Re-Raise, so he can go with the party into the Magic Tower, or Tower of the Magi. We need a party that will have every member with over 3,000 hit points. I forgot to give him a ribbon. Ribbons, as you may know, are important. with the curse shield. Now you know why. So yeah, we basically just have to grind a party up to the point where they can take the boss that we're going to be fighting's last attack. And I forgot about the whole force, about the whole making everybody immune to it thing. I am apparently really out of it and probably shouldn't be doing this right now. This is going very well. Very, very well. That was dumb. Okay, hopefully with less sucking going forward. So we're gonna get rid of these Genji gloves and give them thunder shields. Let's go ahead and give him... Yeah, we'll give them both white capes, I guess. Thunder shields. Force armor, black hull, force armor. Circlets are better than that. Okay. Once I get into a good rhythm here, we'll actually... I do have a couple topics that got sent in as things to talk about while I was grinding. I'm an idiot. That moment of realization. Wow. We are off to the races here. Okay, we're gonna stop screwing around with trying to put in blitzes when Blizzaga will just do straight 9s anyway. Got some levels. Should be good to keep going. Just need to remember. Okay, Saga. Okay, so the topic at hand is, should RPGs, specifically JRPGs, have grinding as a built-in / required feature? Or is it an outdated way that older games used to artificially lengthen them? I mean, a lot of early games have some sort of aspect to them to increase the replayability or how long it takes to beat the game with things like high difficulty rates, in particular, that would be with stuff like old arcade games, especially, had very challenging parts to them, so that you would keep pumping quarters in, basically. That was intentional, by the way. So I was kind of thinking through this argument, and I had a couple things come to mind. The first being, I feel like most JRPGs don't require as much grinding as most people do in them. I don't know for sure that that's always going to be the case, but in games I can think of, especially a lot of the more, like this game, for example, which is a fairly popular, well-known game and has a lot of opportunity to grind. The grinding is not required. There are plenty of low percent runs. There's a lot of speed runs that beat the game around level, 30 on most characters. And a lot of games, people are grinding for completion. People are grinding because they think that because they're having trouble with it because they don't fully understand the game. There's a lot of things in this game that if you abuse them, you can go through it faster. There's a lot of mechanics that if you don't use them to their fullest potential, you can end up having more struggles than you would otherwise. Like if you don't know how to maximize your magic damage and abuse elemental weaknesses, this game becomes a lot harder. And so you end up putting Ultima on all your characters and spamming it. And I think there's also this kind of long-running joke, even, of how underused items are in most of these games. A lot of JRPGs have items, like the single-use damaging items, like in this game, the rods, that are really underused because people want to do the cool things that the characters can do, instead of, like in Mario RPG, throwing bombs. I never used bombs when I played Mario RPG, unless I was in like a desperate situation out of flower points. And I go watch a speedrun of it, and that's literally, like, the second half of the game is chucking bombs at... So I think, while there are games that do require leveling, that do require grinding, like a lot of the Dragon Quest games, you really need to grind. Most games actually do a pretty good job of balancing it out. Another thing is that a lot of games that give you character options, you don't need to grind unless you make lots of characters and try to grind and try to level them all up. In this game, we end up needing to use all the characters. So you actually do have to have that aspect in it. But in most games, no. That is not the case. Come on. Another pro to grinding in games, by the way, that was listed as a pro, here, is basically that it's overestimated how much you need to grind most of the time. So saying grinding is unnecessary and crap is, only goes so far when... That argument only goes so far when most people don't actually, or already grind more than they need to most of the time. The biggest thing to me is that in a lot of games, grinding is how you unlock your customization options. There's not a good way to build customization into characters a lot of times without it. It's not always the case. Like in Chrono Trigger or a lot of Dragon Quest games, you don't have that unless there's a job system in like the Dragon Quest games, some of them. But most job systems require that as a part of their system, I guess. That you have to have a way to level up your jobs. You have to have a way to level up your skills if you have specific skills that you assign most of the time. There's a lot of stuff like that a lot of people just kind of, I guess, basically if there was not grinding in those games, there's not a good way to do that. Learning magic in this game. There are other ways you could do it, but a lot of games implement grinding as the way to do it. Especially on games with multiple characters, like a very large, like a large cast of characters. So those are kind of my pros. Let's go into the cons of grinding in games. Because there's plenty of them. I suppose the obvious thing is that it doesn't contribute anything to the game. Like, straight up, grinding in video games contributes almost nothing to the story, to the gameplay. It tends to be repetitive. You need to find other things to do while you're grinding to distract yourself, as opposed to really enjoying the story. You're not getting challenged by the gameplay unless you're being dumb and not equipping your shields correctly when you're fighting slagworms. So just from a very simple perspective, it doesn't actually contribute that much to the game. From a very similar perspective, I think it's fair to say that the opposite is also somewhat true. That as far as the difficulty goes, while this doesn't contribute anything to the difficulty, grinding can also completely remove the difficulty curve from a game. There are plenty of games where going and, you know, taking an hour to grind takes the game from almost impossible to almost not fun. And there's a lot of games where if you even just do the normal side quests, you're going to grind to a point where you're going to be above where you need to beat the game. Lufia 2 doesn't require that much grinding normally, and especially in gift mode, grinding at all. I mean, if you watched my Lufia 2 run, the end of that game was not terribly exciting, all things considered. And the Chrono Trigger run I did, straight up, you know, the kind of before and after there, I went and did a grind, got completely wrecked by Lavos, went out and just did a little bit of a grind, night and day. Couple levels, just absolutely wrecked Lavos the second time through. And you know, to the point where when I went and did the New Game Plus, it wasn't even a contest. Like, I felt bad almost. Because at that point, after that one little grind session, I was able to come back and just clear the New Game Plus ending where you have two characters. So I think when you stop and think about it that way, a lot of times grinding can actually make games less fun in two different ways. Next thing I wanted to mention is basically the fact that grinding can be, like, as I said, grinding isn't terribly fun for some people, most of the time, and the games that require a hard grind to actually, you know, progress the game, or especially the games that do that to get what you want, I feel like that's a very... I don't even remember what this level is. We'll try it. and hope it actually kills. Yeah, killed. We're good. So yeah, the games that have that boring grind, that can be a hard stop for people who aren't... Basically, if a grind is optional, that's one thing. If a grind is required and is long, that's when it gets to the point where it can be a hard stop on a game. Or when there are too many things to grind about to progress. I've had... Like, Nipponichi games are probably the best example of that. There is so much there. And to even just start looking at all the options you have in front of you, you basically have to sit and grind for hours? Days? When I stopped doing those videos, it was because I was at the point that I was grinding 4 hours off camera for every 1 hour video I put up. Because I didn't want to do the repetitive grind on camera. So that's the, I mean, and that kind of stuff is why I don't normally do those. Not why I don't normally play those type of games, because I've tried. I love those games. I love what you can do with them, but they're extremely, like, over the top as far as their requirements go for any kind of completion. And I mean, I like completing games. It's not like I'm not somebody who enjoys that, as can be evidenced by this video, or the fact that, you know, I've played enough Pokemon to grind out every, like, probably like 100 semi-competitive builds, or, you know, literally just the fact that I caught all the Pokemon. It's not like it's not something I enjoy. I like games where you have a bit of a grind to them. It's just... some of them just get to be too much, and there's a difference between a grind where, like, this grind is easy. You don't have to think that much, and while it is a little repetitive, there's still a little bit to do with it. The Nipponichi grind is just dull. Like, or extremely involved. Those are your two options. And I do want to emphasize that games that have a point to their grinding, I care about a lot more. Like I mentioned Pokemon. Pokemon, the grinding you need to do is to collect things. Which I find much more engaging than grinding for levels. And again, I mentioned, you know, grinding where you are getting something, learning skills, getting a specific skill. Like, as annoying as some of the systems in Legend of Dragoon were, the fact that you had to, like, you could grind out your skills, and it, if you're not familiar, Legend of Dragoon actually has a thing where you, can do button inputs on your skills. So like when you make a physical attack, you actually have to put in button combinations as you go. It's really cool, it's timing based, it's interactive. And every time you do it right, it builds that skill up. So you can go grind that. It's not a requirement, but it's practicing it and building it up at the same time. It's there's a little bit more depth to it than just grinding. So yeah. So I was thinking about it and trying to think of ways to grind without grinding, or ways to have the feeling of grinding and ways to have the feeling of progression without the game just handing you everything. You know, I mean, I think that it would feel a lot worse if you just, you know, were always if you never gained levels, if you never had that progression in an RPG. And I was thinking about it when I play Dungeons & Dragons, typically when I run a game, I use what's called a milestone XP system. And what that means is that as you play the game, as you progress, you naturally, basically you gain your levels at story points. When it's good for the story to progress. So you beat a level, you beat a world, whatever. You beat a boss, you finish a section of the story, and then you progress to the next level. I don't necessarily know that would be work by itself, but I think that model of progression requires a lot less. I also would say if you are doing something like that, if you are doing a grind-based thing, having one XP meter for all of your characters is another interesting thing that I think would go a long way. It made me think of like the flower points in Mario RPG where everybody shares that resource, or even something like, oh, which one is that? Oh, in Heroes of the Storm or some of those MOBA games, the party has your party has a shared XP pool, and it all progresses simultaneously. Because the levels shouldn't be the important part. Sorry, I'm being super, super indecisive about what I actually want to give him. So, and then the other thing is that, obviously in RPGs, part of the game is exploration. It's that being able to build your characters, being able to have that kind of customization to it. So, something like the sphere grid in Final Fantasy X, something like more of a Metroid or a Zelda style system would be interesting to kind of have, you know, certain resources build up or be able to customize based on your exploration, a reward for exploration, as it were, where, you know, your characters might get more of a certain stat or get, you know, XP or levels based on that. Exploration as well could be interesting, and it would complement that, you know, that story-based progression or the milestone-based XP. Another thing which I know I've seen like at least hints of in games is having a set number of enemies in a given area. So, you know, having random encounters is fine, but if you cut out part of that and just had, you know, let's say you had 20 random encounters in a dungeon. If you put a hard limit on the number of encounters in a dungeon, that prevents you from over-level. And it can still reward a player who wants to sit and grind out 20 encounters. Maybe, you know, you have 5 to 10 that you would get on average, and then if you sit and actually go and explore it, you might get 5 if you did like a direct route to the boss. You might get 10 if you explore the dungeon and get all the treasure chests. And you might get 20 if you sit and grind. Something like that would give it a very solid curve without letting you overlevel. It would take that to a slightly different point. And I think that could be really interesting. And I'm sure there are some games that do this sort of thing. I can't think of any offhand, but I know that those types of... these systems exist. I've seen these types of systems, I just haven't seen them all used together. And then the last thing that came to mind was to continue giving you that, I guess, reward and that modular element. I think it would be really cool to, if you want to still let people grind out skills or grind out whatever, have a limit on modular elements. The game that came to mind was Final Fantasy IX, where you learned skills as you went by equipping things and then grinding out levels with those pieces of equipment on. Let's see. I think he's still learning, yes. And Raiden's not still learning. So we're going to give him Bahamut to make sure that the next time he levels up, he gets it. He's still got Growth Egg on. We're going to give Cyan the Growth Egg as well. Sorry, I need to get everybody specifically over 3,000 hit points, and it's starting to, like, I'm really close, and I feel like this party should be able to do this pretty easily. The reason is because the boss we're about ready to fight does an attack that does a specific amount of damage, and we need to make sure that we can survive it. Should have killed first. Hopefully he won't sandstorm twice. He sandstormed twice. So yeah, my thought was basically, if every part of leveling up just rewarded you with, modular elements, it would allow people who, so let's say you've got, let's say you can equip 5 slots, quote unquote, and you get one that gives you like physical build, that gives you like hit points and it gives you hit points and strength, and you get another one that gives you another one that gives you like a new magic spell, and each person could have different ones, and you could have them as items, you could have them as rewards for quote-unquote leveling up, along with more slots for these modular elements. But what that would let you do, that I think would be beneficial, is a player, and this is actually another one that reminded me of Pokemon, a player who does not want to grind only has to grind enough to get those 5 slots that they have filled. A player who wants to grind can grind to collect them all, to learn all of them, but they still only get to fill those 5 slots. So they have more customization options. But the person who just did a little bit of grinding can still function enough to get through the game and isn't actually going to be any further behind. I feel like FF9 did a great job of that. Pokemon does a great job of that, like I said, where I know plenty of people who just play through the game and don't grind, and they have just as much fun as I do, and they may not all... When I grind it through a Pokemon game, I always make sure I have the correct moves, the correct Pokemon at a good level, so I'll have several parties to have the right elements and stuff for a specific gym, whereas they're just gonna play the game and end up doing fine. Because if they start having problems, they grind out the Pokemon they're using, the one Pokemon they're using, to be powerful enough. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird thought I had, specifically regarding that little combination of stuff, where, you know, or even if you did just have if you used all of these things at once, I mentioned that, you know, the story-based XP progression makes sure that as your characters progress, maybe you get a few extra rewards for doing side quests or for collecting special items off to the side so that people who go out of their way still feel like they're getting rewarded. And then you have the modular elements to still let you do that customization, but without letting you go over the top on your customization. So it's a lot more restricted, but would still let you have that same feeling of growth and that same feeling of customization that I feel like at least I look for in an RPG. I don't know if that's something everybody does, I suppose, but that's me. The other thing that I think is important with this is making the game itself feel more tactical. Games that give you lots of options and lots of ways to play, generally you don't need to go as over the top on your leveling if you're smart about it. Games that reward smart play can still be challenging if you don't overlevel, and taking out that leveling aspect and forcing people to play things through at a lower level, not letting them grind up to to overleveled points, could make the games more challenging and therefore more fun, as long as you don't go too far in either direction. Get a good balance. I think we're good. I know it doesn't look like we're good because Shadow's HP is still low, but we're going to do that, and we're going to call it good. Okay, let's make sure we all still have stuff equipped, and we're going to go do this. It is time. So yeah, I hope people find that interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments as far as whether you feel like it's okay for games to have leveling in it, and how much leveling. I know, like, some, like, MMORPGs, that's almost like half the point. But I've also played MMORPGs where you always have, like, quests and stuff to do that leveling, as opposed to just having to do a grind. At least up to a certain point. Those are the ones I've enjoyed more, so, you know, I'd be very curious to hear what other people think about that particular line of thought. So, I thought that you had to grind a number of Cactuars and then the boss here showed up. What I found out later is that this boss actually is just, like, in this bottom left corner that I never go to. So, we're gonna go through here. And actually, you know what? We're gonna give him an earring if he's got one available. I may not have unequipped everybody. No, there it is. I'm gonna give him an earring for healing. I know that sounds weird, but I want to make sure that since he's so fast, that he can heal. And then we're gonna go Lock is gonna be our heavy hitter here. We're gonna try this. I don't know if it's gonna work, but we're gonna try it. So we're gonna go Master Scroll, Sniper Eye, Ultima Weapon. I think that's it. Okay. So this boss has the same requirement, or the same issues as Cactuars. He has the same restriction on his accuracy, or we have the same restriction on accuracy with him. So characters that can use attacks that hit multiple times or that will always hit are really the key. Cool. When we beat him, he is going to do an attack that does 10,000 damage total, spread out in, yeah, like that, basically. So having at least, basically having a certain amount of hit points around is really important. Oh, we're also gonna have to level up. Basically this means, or the whole point of the 3000 is to make sure that since he can do multiple needles like that at a time, it helps prevent it from all getting, or from one person getting killed in one shot. Like that. That's why we want to keep our party all above 3,000 hit points. We are going to have to raise Cyan here in just a moment. Hopefully he'll get his raise off first. This is not an easy fight. And we may still be too low for it. These optional new espers are ridiculous. And I am intending to kind of cheese out some of the other ones, if I can. I mean, there's only so much you can do, obviously. Oops. Well, at least he's up. My big problem is right now I'm not even keeping up with healing. That was ridiculous. Oh, this must be the end. Okay. There we go. So we did beat him. Unfortunately, we beat him with one person down and almost died as a result. But that's why we had everybody's HP high. And it ended up working. He doesn't give any magic points or anything. But we get the Esper. Cactuar Magicite. Cactuar is really good. It doesn't give us any new spells, but it does give a +2 speed at level up, which is something we very much are lacking. Like I said before, Odin, which we already got rid of, is one of the only ones that gives you a speed boost. Okay, we're gonna head back up here. The airship. We may run into one or two more fights along the way, and that's fine. And I don't think Sandstorm's gonna kill anybody. Even if he does it twice. Shadow's still got that earring equipped, so he's pumping out a bunch of damage. That's why I went ahead and did that. Okay. We're gonna do an unequip all. I'm gonna take a look at who our next party members are gonna be here. Who we still are missing some levels on. Again, we're not using Gao or Strago. I think I'm gonna go ahead and try Umara, or get Umaro a few levels. Who else is low? Celis, Setzer. Yeah, that should work. Everybody else is at least 42, so this will give us a little bit of a chance on these guys. We're gonna go ahead and give him the growth ring, or growth egg. Growth egg. Let's go ahead and have her go with... You know what? Those guys can be killed with instant death, so I'm gonna go ahead and do my cheesy build here and see how it works. It's probably a terrible idea as I'm thinking about it, unless this force armor is yeah, no, that's a terrible idea, but we can do Master Scroll instead of Genji Glove at least. And then we do Death Tarot, Thunder Shield, Magus Rod, Magus Robe. Circlet. Force Shield. Minerva. Mystery Veil. Thunder Shield. I don't have anybody with the Cursed Shield, I just realized. Ribbon. Let's go. Yeah, White Cape. So we're gonna try and get her as much magic evasion as we can. He's got Thunder Shield. Magic evasion. Berserker Ring. Pray. Let's see what she still needs to learn. This is an option, just to give her a speed boost. Oh, that's right, she doesn't have Phoenix yet. So we'll give her Phoenix. Dude's working on Ragnarok, it looks like. And the other two don't get them. We're doing this just very briefly to get a few more levels, specifically, that we're looking for. Before we start, before we move on to the other grind area. This might be a little rough, but I think we'll be able to do it, between Setzer and Stelis Umaro. We'll find out! So basically the strategy here is going to be, Umaro's going to attack, whether we want him to or not. So there's going to be that counterattack. And we just need to follow it up with something that's going to kill. Which is usually going to be a Blizzaga. And Umaro's not going to get this level. The Setzer's probably going to kill here. This is the downside with Umaro. We can't customize his equipment for stuff like this. And I don't think there's any options that give him immunity to wind. May need to go somewhere else. Do the, like, a Reach Frogs again or something. Crap. Hopefully it's just one sandstorm. Figures. Yeah, we're gonna have to do something else. This is not working. Go gained a level. And I wanna say this is where those frogs are, right? The frogs and the mantises. Yeah. There we go. I really just want to get Umaro a couple more levels so I can throw him back in the Coliseum and be a little bit less worried about him dying. Just spam Blizzara. Hope they don't jump. Hey, Umaro gained a level. Good. That was the goal. Oh. So Coco just gained like 3 levels because he did the earlier fights too. Umaro's still leveling slowly. Nah. Celis gained a level. Blizzard Orb. That might actually be beneficial here. Snowstorm. Equipping the Blizzard Orb gives Umaro that Snowstorm attack you just saw. Hey, there's a level. Okay. I wanted to get a couple levels with those characters quick, because they were a little behind. Let's see. I think we've just got a little bit more to go before we've got a party that can take on the Magi Master. I could probably actually try it now, but we've got another little grind session to go. Probably the most dangerous one as well. This probably won't be the party we use because we do need luck. No, we could use Go-Go, I suppose. So he can equip the Brigand's Glove too. Or Thief Bracer, rather. That should be fine. We actually want to switch back probably to the Rage Ring for now. Or we could just give him the Gigas Glove. Hero's Ring. We'll try that. I'm not expecting that to be a thing, but we'll try it. Okay, we'll go Tent. I know I just said I was going to use this party. We're not going to do this time, though. Because this is already a long video. So, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe. Check out the other content on my channel. If you have any comments on the, or questions, let me know what you think about the question that got raised by Mike about whether JRPGs should have grinding required or built in. As I said, feel free to leave them in the comments or just contact me privately. If you have any questions of your own like that, or topics you think would be good to discuss, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. As always, have a good one. We'll catch you next time in the Dinosaur Forest.